All right, I'm going to try to do this from memory the next day because I ran out of time yesterday to do my video. This is the 4-hour chart, and we made a nice recovery and have reached a new high from the previous dip that we took. So we are most likely looking to rise and head on up. And I marked out the 4-hour 180-day SMA right here on this line, so keep that in mind. The others I think I haven't quite adjusted yet. And also note the dollar amount here. All right, so since it's going up, I got into a long, and as you can see on the 1-hour chart here, just a tiny movement going up to this SMA here would result in like a $362 profit. So just a tiny movement is pretty huge. So we want to make sure that we're looking at the smaller time frames. Anyway, so I just threw that in there. I'm not executing it yet or anything. 30-minute chart, still seeing uptrend, though I would say on the RSI it's really high. It's almost in the overbought territory. And let me go back one more time to that 1-hour chart. I think I wrote that down wrong. But anyway, this marks the SMA right through there. So that blue line is kind of where I think it might be heading. Okay, and as we zoom in a little bit, we can see it probably is going to take a little bit of a dip down to this purple line here, which is the tops of these candles, and then find a support and then head on up. So that's where I put my limit order, to be a little bit more precise about where I'm going to get in. And the difference between a good trade and a bad trade is just timing, really. You can guess where it's going, but if you get it in at the wrong place, you'll still make a loss. All right, so if I put my limit order in there, this is about as big of a loss as I really want to sustain. So 237 is a pretty big deal. Of course, 662, if I do make that, that's a huge trade. So I'm not sure that's really going to happen either. All right, so we can see a very narrow and very nice little zigzaggy pattern. And we can see the MACD is just starting to drop, and that's exactly what we're looking for. So we're going to look for it to find support down here on the 5-minute chart. And the futures is coming out this morning, so we got to watch out for that. Alrighty, this is the 5-minute chart where we really start to get serious about our entry and exit points. We're still seeing it drop. The MACD is just now turning and dropping. Okay, and this is the 1-minute chart, and I just started to see it bounce off of that point. So I got in, and I believe this is a good trade. This is good risk to reward ratio, and we got in here, so that means that that'd be 150, almost 200, just shy of $200. So I'm happy with that. Try to keep it under 200 and try to keep my profits, around at least 200 and up to 400 or even 600, but that's very unusual. So start off with that, and then I raise it up. Okay, and I think that's a good exit point too, actually. I really think it's going to get up there. Okay, it's kind of sitting there. MACD's looking good. And then it dropped down. So I got stopped out. Really disappointed in that. That was the first low blow of the day. Because I haven't really changed my mind about where it's going. I just should have waited a little bit longer and maybe gotten in a little bit further down. All right, the real earnings report comes out at 8:30, and it is 8:35 here, so don't really see that it affected a whole lot here. Kind of waiting for it to take effect. Went out to the 5-minute chart, and the MACD is still looking like it's dropping, so I think we'll just have to wait for that 5-minute to change. All right. So that's where this came from, all the way down here. And the 1 minute chart, boy, it really does look like it's starting to find support right through here, and the MACD is starting to turn. So kind of changed my mind. I don't know, maybe I got a little FOMO. But this is, I got in at the peak of this candle. It was starting to show these two great big candles that surpassed these guys, but then it immediately dropped back down again. So it's moving actually pretty fast right now, even though it's not even the opening bell. We're still almost an hour away. And the MACD is turning. I really think that it's heading up, and I got in at a high point here, but I think the potential is pretty great as well. It's just when I do that, my stops are like huge losses, which is unfortunate. So that's the tricky part. And that's kind of what got me into trouble today. So, all right, here is another picture of the 1 minute chart. And this looks like a really good setup. It really, really does. I'm not asking, well, actually, yeah, okay, so I'm asking for it to get up quite a bit. And this is actually one of the things I remember thinking that it kind of concerned me, is we've still got this channel drawn from a long time ago, and we're tracking right in the middle. No, this is not the channel. This is the new channel that I drew that is only from last night's trading. All right, so we're tracking right in the middle. And if it got up to the top, it's nowhere as close to where my sell order is. So it would either have to go flat for quite a while and then meet it out here somewhere, or that sell order is just not going to be, it's not going to get up to that point anytime soon, or it's just too high. I'm not sure. So that's not good. But then we had a great big nice candle. Didn't actually raise up above my my entry point very far, because I got in at, the high points of these candles, but it looks like it's at least heading the right direction. So I raised up my stop to take some risk off the table, so I was a little bit more comfortable with this trade. And it's looking pretty good. 1 minute chart, MACD is still going up, the RSI is right in the middle and heading up, so that's all good. And then it took a nosedive before I knew what was happening. Just took a huge drop. And I don't know why. It's 8:50. There's really no good reason for this to happen like all of a sudden. It's just kind of indicative of what's going on this morning. It's really, really volatile and big, big movements. So that was very unfortunate. And already I've lost like $300, it looks like. So this is that is not a good beginning to this day. Still, $300 I can recover with one really, really, really good trade, or two good trades that are decent. So not completely hopeless yet. All right, so this is the 1 minute chart again, and decided, I really do think it's heading up. So I got into another order at almost the same point that I did before, and I have a really tight stop this time, only an $87 loss. So still hoping for incredibly great things here, but I think it's probably a good trade. All right, 5 minute chart. You can see the MACD has, it started to touch to drop, and then it headed up again. So we can see a bunch of green candles here. So I think it's going to be fine, but we'll have to just see. Okay, I'm in now. You can see where I'm in here, and it's starting to head up, and then it dropped again. It's like, oh man, I'm going to get stopped out again. This is the 1 minute chart. MACD dropped. Okay, so now I'm like at a $400 loss for the day. And man, I'm getting frustrated. This is not good. If I'm not careful, I'm going to lose all of the profits that I made yesterday, which was like $680. But, I don't want to lose all that. That would be awful. All right, so I extended the channel here. This is just overnight's trading. And you can see it's staying within that channel pretty well. So we're kind of near the top of it. which might be part of the problem here. It might be dropping, and so I decided to go with that. I decided to do a short here, and I've got a really tight stop, but actually it's just above the SMAs, and I don't think it's going to get up that high. And I'm hoping for it to drop just to the blue line right through here, which is $250, so that would be a good trade. And it dropped very nicely, started to drop and drop some more. So then I took all the risk off the table, lowered my stop. This is a good setup, good trade. And when it started to show signs of hesitation and head up, I got out. So I got some of my losses back here. That was a better trade. All right, I'm still thinking it might still drop down to that point. Just kind of waiting. And when it gets down there and bounces up, then I want to get into a long again. So I'm going to wait for a long position. And this is the 5-minute chart. The MACD is starting to drop again. Okay, 1-minute chart. And we did not drop. We didn't drop down to that point, and the MACD is starting to turn up. Big green candle. So what does a girl do? I stayed out of it. I waited, and I was so glad that I did, because almost immediately we had a red candle that lost all of the ground that green candle had gained. So I'm like, wow, this is difficult trading day. There's just no two ways about it. And it dropped some more, and we're still not at the opening bell. We're still 7 minutes away from it. Big movements, big quick movements. Okay, and I looked at the volume profile just to kind of help. I thought maybe that would give me some insight. I had to get rid of one of my SMA lines in order to do that, just briefly. So I'm looking at the volume profile from like 8:30, and it's not super helpful, honestly. You can see the cluster of orders right through there, which is exactly where the last bit of orders have been. I don't know. If you zoom out and look at a little bit more history, you can definitely see these nodes, but again, not super helpful. I mean, it's possible it's going to drop down to, this area right through here, I guess, but I didn't really find it to be very telling, actually, this morning. Okay, so it got down to the blue line, and I saw the green candle jump up, and so I got in, because I had kind of predetermined this is what I wanted to do. This is the 1-minute chart. Got in here, got my stop way down here, and my sell order at that peak. Okay, and obviously that was not a very good risk to reward ratio, so as soon as it headed up, I raised up my stop. And this is what it looks like on the 5-minute chart. It's still kind of heading down, has not started to make a turn yet, so that's a little bit worrisome, but we'll see what happens. Okay, it's still pretty much sitting right in that spot. On the 15-minute chart, you can see the MACD is very overextended and starting to drop. So that's really not a good sign. And at the opening bell, it dropped down and stopped me out again. So now I've lost a whole bunch. Let's see, 533. I started off at $9.99, so I've lost about $500 now, unfortunately. That is not good. And wouldn't you know, it went down to that bottom of the channel, and I was so gun shy at this point, I didn't jump in at that point, and I just thought I should probably wait and let my emotions calm down. And so I kind of missed that leg, and I don't know, maybe I should, maybe I shouldn't have, but anyway, I waited too long, and I got in here almost at the peak. So here I'm in a trade and a long, and of course it dropped down and stopped me out. So that was pretty clearly a bad trade. Right after the opening bell like that, let me go back again and look. This is at 9:33, and it made a nice, pretty big jump real quick up there. It's very likely that it's going to come down and retest that level again, and I should have seen that coming. So got stopped out, and now I've lost like, let's see, this is 300, so I've lost like $600. So at least my stop was in a place where I wasn't going to lose more than 100. It was pretty tight, but still I keep losing every single trade. And I have lost track how many trades I've lost this morning. But yeah, I should have stopped a while back. And of course it goes right back up again. So it's like, man, this is just brutal. My stops are in a place where I'm comfortable with the loss, and yet it's so tight compared to the movement that the price action is making this morning that I keep getting stopped out, even though my predictions are right. And so the way to trade this in hindsight would have been just to go to the MES and maybe traded just a couple contracts instead of one trade, one contract of the ES, because it's just too much money on the table. I can't do that. All right, so here I'm sitting at a loss of $709, and it's like, man, that is just sad. Very, very sad. All right, so 9:38, still pretty early. I'm just going to wait for time to pass and things to calm down a little bit. 15-minute chart here. We're still in that channel, and it headed down to this one last candle here. That's where it hit that bottom of the channel and then headed up and then came back down again, and it's just like you can see the volatility there is just incredible. And so I have an order in here. I thought that it was going to be fine at this point to get in, but then it dropped some more, so I'm still waiting. All right, zoomed into the 1 minute chart again, and this is okay, I think what happened here, I'd gotten in a trade. Let me go back again. Did I get in a long? I must have gotten in a long. How I did, I don't know. I got in a long up here, and then dropped, and I kept dropping my stop, which was totally the wrong thing to do. I knew it, but I also knew my issue was that I kept getting stopped out because I couldn't stomach the amount of money the loss was showing, and it is going up. I know it's going up. I was certain it was going up. So I dropped the stop, and just at the last second it headed up and got back up to where I had gotten in. So it quickly raised up my stop. So now I've only got less than $100 on the table here that I'm going to lose. And when it went up just a smidge more, I got out at a pretty, a small profit, because I just thought, man, I just can't take that. That was a bad trade. That would be that would have been awful if I had done that one. That would have been like $1,000 loss there. I can't do that. I was just darn lucky that I was able to get out at any kind of a profit there. So, all right, so I got back just a smidge of the loss there. I'm sitting at like more of a $600 loss for the day, which is bad enough. And there you go. So I knew it was going up and just didn't want to hang on, so I got out and missed out on that big leg, which is kind of sickening because I knew that leg was coming the whole time. All right, so now we've broken through that channel, which is kind of interesting, and I thought, well, I think it may be that it's heading up. I drew the Fibonacci line in here, you can see, and I think that kind of shows that this level right up here may be the next resistance level that it's heading to. So this is a 15-minute chart, and it's sky high. You can see the MACD is just heading up, and you can see that on the price action. And I kept trying to chase it, trying to get in, and it just kept moving faster and faster, and I just kept losing out on getting in. So it was like, man, I can't chase it like this. This is ridiculous. All right, so I finally was able to get in almost at the last second right through here, and this is the Fibonacci line right through here, which is a good trade. Honestly, that's not a bad one. and it went up a little bit further, so I raised up my stop to take all the risk off the table, and got stopped out. So just can't win. All right, so now it's starting to drop, so at least I got out. I thought, okay, you know what? I think it's gonna drop now, so I'm gonna get into a short. So I jumped into a short, and because it came so close to that Fibonacci line, I think that's as close as it's gonna get. So I've got a really, really good setup here. I've got in, it's starting to drop, and my stop is only like a $50 loss. And this is in a good spot too. Okay, headed up a little bit, and then so I thought, no, I think this is really in a drop. I really see evidence for that, MACD and everything. So I raised up the stop to make a little bit more of a risk to reward ratio work. And starting to drop here, and then it came up a little bit. I don't know what's going on there. I think I doubled up some of my screenshots. All right. Okay, so still sitting in this short trade, and finally it turned to drop and passed through that SMA. So I lowered the stop to lock in that profit here. So I've locked in, let's see, a little over $100, $125 or something like that. I've locked in. Okay, and it came up and stopped me out. So I made 125 at least on that one. So I got back a little bit more of that loss. All right, I missed a screenshot of the last order, and it stopped out at a small loss again. So I lost like $33. All right, I'm gonna try one more short here. Got in here. Looks like it's pretty much going flat, but I think it's gonna get down to this SMA here. And there we go. Very nice. And it dropped so nicely that I lowered the limit down to the Fibonacci line down here and put my stop. I'm following it very tightly down to the stop. And then I was able to get pretty decent trade on that one. So now my losses for the day are $550, which sounds like a lot, but when I made 680 yesterday, another way to look at this would be that I made only, instead of 680 yesterday, I made, 140 yesterday and nothing today. So that helps to kind of justify it. I didn't lose all the losses that I didn't lose all of the profit that I made yesterday. So there is that. But that was a brutal day and not pretty. But that's also the first loss day that I've had in a week and a half. So, I take what you can get.